profesionalmente lo que tiene en mi, ay Dios mío.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna begin the legislative workshop for the discussion on parking commercial vehicles and recreational vehicles on properties. Can we please call to order?
Mr. Calvo is absent. Ms. Casal Munoz is present. Ms. Garcia Robles is present. Ms. Perez is present. Mr. Rodriguez is absent. Mr. Tumidor is present, and Mr. Zogby is present.
Thank you. All right,
Small claims.
so item number 3, item for discussion.
Proposed ordinance amending the Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Chapter 98, entitled zoning, amending Section 98-2200, parking commercial vehicles, recreational vehicles, boats or vessels on property zoned residential, regulating the placement and number of recreational vehicles, vessels, and boats permitted on property zoned residential, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Is there someone that's gonna speak on behalf of this item? Are we gonna have a presentation? How is this going to work?
I have a presentation if everybody would like to take a look.
Okay, I'd appreciate it.
So the majority of this ordinance doesn't change. The majority of this ordinance is not amended. There are only a couple things that are being amended in this ordinance. I know there were discussions regarding commercial vehicles at the last city council meeting, but I want to make clear that this ordinance does not amend anything regarding commercial vehicles. The only thing that this ordinance amends is boats and vessels and recreational vehicles. What we've done is we've defined what a boat and vehicle is, and we've defined what a recreational vehicle is. We've also lowered or lessened the length of the recreational vehicle and the vessel that can be parked in the yard. And we have regulated where the boat and the recreational vehicle can be parked within the property. Currently, the ordinance reads that you can have up to 4 in total vessels and recreational vehicles. You can have 2 and 2, and it doesn't regulate where you can have the recreational vehicle or the vessel. The ordinance that I've created lowers that number to 2. It allows you to have 1 recreational vehicle and 1 vessel, and it regulates that you can no longer have the recreational vehicle or the vessel in the backyard or the front yard. It stipulates that you can only have them in the side yards. Okay, so we can go through the presentation. So my new definition of a boat and vessel, this is synonymous with the Florida statute. If you read Florida Statute 320, you'll see the same exact definition for a boat and vessel, and it references Article 7 of the state constitution. So I've just modeled it after that same definition. Continue. So this is the recreational vehicle definition. I know there was some discussion about this definition and the fear that it was too overbroad, I would say. I agree. After going back and reading, I think like what I said, this doesn't affect commercial vehicles. And if you kind of read this recreational vehicle definition, I could see that it encompasses more than what an actual recreational vehicle is. So what I have discussed with the city attorney is that we can do what I did pretty much with the boat definition, and that is make the definition synonymous with what a recreational vehicle is in the Florida statute. And let me pull that up for you. Wait a second. Go ahead, man.
Is that a definition what you just have on the presentation? Or is
No,
that the
this
old
is
one?
the original
Okay.
presentation. Hold on. There we go. So within the Florida statute, A recreational vehicle unit type is defined as a unit type primarily designed as temporary living quarters for recreational, camping, or travel use, which either has its own motive power or is mounted on or drawn by another vehicle. So I think it's a more simple definition, and we'll keep in within the definition where it says, where do I have it? Where it says it's primarily designed as a temporary living quarters, which either has its own motive power or any mobile term being operated on the roads locating in the city. So I think this new definition kind of encompasses what this council wants to achieve, which is a more succinct and complete definition for a recreational vehicle. So we don't get confused with commercial vehicles, semi trucks, or anything like that. It really defines what a recreational vehicle is. Continue.
Excuse me, through the chair, if I may add, I think that also the words semi-trailer, truck, tractor, bus trailer, et cetera, are being removed. They're being stricken.
Yes.
So you'll be left with what, he just said. Thank you.
If I may, I know I want to apologize because I wasn't here the previous meeting when this was discussed due to a family emergency that I had. So maybe this was something that was discussed at that meeting. Do we have any like comparables on what other municipalities have in
Definitely.
order for codes?
Yes.
Okay, so just to check, what other municipalities have in order? And also I would like some data on us as a city. Do we have any record as to how many of these properties we've been already enforcing that they have some kind of illegal activity as the ordinance stands now? Do we have a percentage of how this is a problem, maybe of?
I don't have any of that information as I stand here, but I can come back to you with that information.
And I'm referencing more of the issues that we had, like people that are living in their RVs on the property that might be renting them. Something that we've been enforcing, maybe,
I would have to check with the code enforcement department. I don't have that information offhand though, but I can get back to you definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's important just to see how it's already been enforced and
Sure.
maybe if it's already a crucial percentage of a number
Sure.
and that's not working, then we have to maybe take a different route altogether. I know that personally, when we had, what year was that? I believe it was the year of COVID that we did the parade, the Christmas parade. What year was that we did the parade around the city? 2020, was it? Okay, so that year, Councilman De La Rosa, myself, and Councilman Tundidor were on top of the fire truck. And when we drove around the city, it was beyond astonishing seeing how many of these vehicles are parked in the back of homes. And I think that's when I really saw that this was a major issue throughout the city. The three of us were saying, wow, look, there's another one. Oh my God. And they were parallel parked in the back of the parking. There was, even a bunch of things going on that was questionable in some of those backyards. And I think that it's our responsibility, not only as a city to enforce this, but to help our policemen and our firemen, because when there's an emergency and they have to go to these homes, they don't know what's going on in the backyard. They don't know who's living in there. They don't know, who they're really going to have to service if they're occupied in the backyard. And also this could be an issue that they catch on fire because they're using electricity from the house. And, this could actually cause a more serious issue in the neighborhood. So I think it's important that we're having these discussions and that I think that it's from 2 vessels to 1, I think makes sense. And the 2 RVs to 1, I'm okay with that change. I don't know what was discussed in the last meeting, if there was anyone that opposed that. And what other changes? I know that there was another discussion on where it's parked.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can we elaborate on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if we continue, Melissa, we talk about parking here and parking regulations. So now we'll get into where the vehicle can be parked and the size of the vehicle or the vessel that you can have parked. As amended, we have now that the recreational vehicle cannot exceed 24 feet. Originally in the ordinance, it stated that a recreational vehicle not exceeding 33 feet can be parked on the property. I did some research. 24 is pretty small. I will say it is pretty small. In Miami-Dade County, as Ms. Perez stated, I looked at other municipalities and the county, and what I'll tell you that I found is that the smallest that is permitted is 22 feet. And I believe that's in the city of Hialeah Gardens. And the largest that I saw permitted outside of the city of Hialeah with 33 feet is Miami-Dade County, which is 30 feet. Okay, so we've landed on that number 24 feet. As I said before, I don't think that this ordinance is meant to prohibit length or do anything with length. I think it's really to see where the vehicle is and be visible. So I mean, I can always change that 24 feet to whatever this council would like.
Yes, ma'am.
I speak so loud. Usually they tell me to turn off the microphone. One of the things, the 33 feet that are here,
Yes.
I know that I looked at all of them as well. I know the county has 33 feet that are here. If it fits in your house, I don't think that the city is going to ever go and measure
Correct.
the length of it. Instead of people breaking the rules, why don't we just leave it how it was, the 33 feet? If it fits in your house, great. And if it doesn't, you have to find somewhere else to park it. So I think that's a good way. 24, if you think about the people that are buying these motorhomes, they're very, very expensive.
Mhm.
And just because you're off a couple of feet, you're not going to tell them go park it somewhere else, that it could be damaged or whatnot. So I think that's not a big issue, considering that I think the reason we're revisiting this specifically to make sure nobody's living in it. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So 33 feet, I
Yes.
think is.
Go ahead.
So I think maybe just to kind of help us receive more information and how we enforce what we have on the books now. You know, I think it's important that we bring up Alexis and perhaps he could walk us through the current enforcement efforts. Okay. And is he walking up, you know, I want to share my thoughts because this, you know, we need to always be mindful of who we represent, what our community is. Okay. You know, obviously a very blue collar community and in many cases, you know, the purchasing of a boat is a heavy investment. Storing that boat in some place is very costly. And many folks, rightly so, believe that, you know, this is my home, I could park it in my home, right? And so we need to kind of navigate this in the best way possible. But I think, you know, Alexis and I have had numerous conversations. I know that he's already had some statistical information on how many RVs are actually in our city. You know, there's a question between which are registered with the state as an actual vehicle that is going to have a tag on it and everything, as opposed to those that are not registered. And that may be someplace that we could, you know, start working on. And another thing to thinking through is that, you know, if you have an RV, forget the size for right now, but I would agree, we're not going to go there and measure RVs and what have you. But if you have an RV and you don't have enough space to park it in the side of your house, would we permit it facing the right of way in the front of the house? And if we did that, what else should we require? Should we require some sort of variance, some sort of permit, some sort of authorization to do something like this? And I don't want to muddy it up too much, and I don't want to create more work than necessary. But there are some folks that may not be able. And then, you know, by a decision that we make, which maybe they've said, look, I've had it parked here all the life, didn't have a problem before, nobody's ever complained. I use it to go out 3 times, 4 times a year. But this is where I store it. I store it someplace else. They're going to charge me, you know, $1,200 a month, and I don't have the income to do that. You know, we're going to hear all these stories, right? Not to mention the insurance in my house has gone up. I'm paying more taxes. Everything's gone up. You know, we don't want to live in communism, right? We'll hear all this stuff. So what can we do to be not to allow this thing to, because what the goal here, obviously, in my opinion, the goal here is we do not want folks renting these RVs out like it's a camper situation.
Right.
But it's important for us to hear from Alexis. What can he do? Can he go into somebody's backyard? I don't think he can. And I don't think our guys are peeking over fences looking for these things. I don't think we could use drones to fly over people's homes. So, how do we identify the one that's in the backyard, which I think we could all agree that might have been put in there by a crane because it's never leaving the backyard and it's clear they're not using it for camping. No, we enforce these things. So, I think it's important that we hear from him, understand, and then maybe we could go ahead and tweak, give him the tools he needs, to help us solve the situation that we have in hand.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, Alexis Riveron, 501 Palm Avenue. The issue with the RVs, like the mayor mentioned, we can't go into no one's property. It's a visual inspection from the street.
Right.
You can't use a camera and try to take pictures over the fence. So it limits to enforcement. Apart from size and where you go park it, we're limited. Obviously, this ordinance, if it limits it to the sides, and we see it parked in the back, could write up a violation because you could visually see it's parked in the back. What we've been doing in the building department is if we catch you connected to the sewer or to power,
Mhm.
we don't go the code enforcement route. We typically go through the building department, we declare the house unsafe, and we cut power to the house until they remove the RV that's connected to the sewer and power. As far as enforcement,
If I may though,
Mhm.
I've heard a resident say that they keep it connected to keep, the smell, so there's not mold, so that their refrigerator stays cold. So I don't know how to then we enforce that because some people do like to keep it connected for that purpose. So
that's not a problem.
okay.
But when you do
But
connect to
we
the
ask
sewer,
them to go inside in that scenario to check to see
if
if,
they allow us,
Okay.
it's all consent. You cannot just walk into a property.
okay,
They have to give you access.
right,
And and through the chair, the original ordinance also says that for us allowing them to have it there, that we can ask them to go in, and if they say no, then we start looking to see that there's a problem.
right. But then I would put that wording in the ordinance. If you do have it connected for purposes of, your refrigerator to keep it fresh, then fine. Show us, allow us to go inside and to make sure that there's
It
no
already
one,
allows us.
because he
yeah.
says that we can't.
That's not an issue because if they're connected to normal power to circulate, that's not a problem.
Okay,
It's not- The problem is people living in it being rented.
right. But we can't shut off the electricity if
We don't.
you just said that if.
We
it's-
cut power if someone's living in it.
Right,
Have proof that they're connected to the sewer and to the power. An RV cannot be connected directly to the power of the house. They could do it with an extension cord
okay.
to run a generator,
A
something like
generator.
that. That's not
Okay,
an issue.
all right,
It's when they do building without a
Connected to the
permit,
sewer.
connected permanent.
okay. And we could see that from the outside.
No, we can't. When we catch you,
Hmm,
because if you have it well covered, we'll never know.
Right. Yeah, there's a
So-
lot of details that are out of our control.
All right, so let's maybe take this in compartments, okay? If you're living in it, you're the only way to maybe 80-90% prove that you're living in it is that you have to go at night. We don't do that now, right?
No, what we've had task forces for semi trucks. We go once a month at night to looking for commercial vehicles.
All right,
That's. what-
commercial vehicles, we're not
commercial,
looking for.
Not for the RVs.
Okay, so because from my understanding, if you're in the RV, if you like
The lights are
open
on.
it up, the
Mhm.
lights are on, obviously.
Right.
Clearly, there's an indicator. Now, the people are very creative. I'm cleaning it, I'm
Right.
getting it ready to take it out at Tilodo. But, let's be clear, we don't go out at night, combing streets to see who has their RV turned on or we don't do that. Okay? And I don't think there's any tool here that we're offering to be able to do that. Perhaps one of the things that we may want to consider, but this is now more policy than anything else, is, add more inspectors and vary their hours so that you have inspectors that are working later in the day,
And weekends.
or weekends.
That's in play already.
I'm sorry,
That's in play.
that's in play now?
We're looking to do that.
Right. And so I think it's, now beware, Where, because inspectors out on weekends, all of you are gonna get calls. And so it's always a slippery slope. But these are the things that if we want to address this, if we feel, and I think we all feel this is now becoming a problem that needs to be addressed now, because if we allow it to just kind of linger and linger and linger, it'll be part of the DNA of the city, and then you'll never be able to remove it, ever. And so, perhaps these are other things that we could consider, and concentrate just on the RVs. Let's remove the boats out of this thing for now. Let's
Right.
concentrate on the RVs, unless you tell me somebody's actually living in a boat,
Yeah.
which I've heard that might be the case. And you could prove it, that's one thing. But for now, I would tell you, I think we need to let's bite what we could chew right now. And I think it's the illegal use of the RV. So think in terms of how do we give him more tools in order to, enforce what he has now, understanding that if our inspectors are done by, 3:00 in the afternoon, the rest of the day.
Yeah.
People are at work, they're coming home to their RV a las 6 de la tarde, so.
The chair.
Hold on, let's give him, I think he was gonna say one more thing.
Another suggestion, we could probably remove the registration process. Because you could always pull up from the DMV what RVs are registered in the city. What's been happening is when these RVs get flooded, they sell them at auction. They can't be registered because they're no good. People are buying them at auction, transporting them to the back of the house to rent. So we'll be able to know just by the DMV if what's registered and what's not. In the city.
Say that part again, because I want everybody to understand it. Say that part again.
We could, through the DMV, find out what RVs are registered in the city. When they get flooded, they go to auction. They get sold because obviously it's like the RVs are lemon, can be registered no more or used. They get purchased, they get brought to the city, and they get transported through a crane to the back of the house.
I've gotten those
So
pictures.
we don't need the registration process, I think, because we just deduct. If there's an RV back there and it's not registered, we know it's illegal.
Do we currently have that list of registered?
No, we could get it,
Okay.
probably through police.
So so someone had mentioned there's state registered RVs and then there's the city registered RVs. I'm assuming people buy it in different parts of Florida, and in Ocala, they sell them in other parts. So if they're registered there, we don't have that registration until we pull their license through the state. Is that correct?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
We don't know.
Um,
Would anyone in police know when we run a tag?
Through the chair. What was the question again specifically on that? What he's referring to is in our ordinance, it exists right now, and it's similar to other ordinances. All RVs must be registered with the state and have a valid plate, license plate and tag. The ordinance called for a separate and additional city registration so we could keep track of it. But what he's saying is true. He doesn't need it. According to the ordinance, the owner or occupant must live there who has the RV. So if there's a complaint, they can go there and go, let me see if there's an RV state registered to this house. You probably don't have access to that. The police may have to help you with that. I'm not sure what the legal limits, because you're not going to have access to know what, right? The database for registered tags. But they can know, okay, I don't see an RV registered in this address. So whatever's there has to be legal. That's already in the books, because already in our ordinance, it says they have to be registered. I just wanted to say one thing. And I know Vivian wants to talk. First of all, I agree, and we should take this in steps. The simplest thing is I agree. When we're ready to take a motion, I don't think today's the motion day, 1 and 1. That would be the first start. But I just wanted to bring something up here. The inspection, you talked about the inspection. What are we going to look for? The current ordinance and the working ordinance allows for inspection. The person, the tenant or the owner must comply and allow inspection from the city when reasonably noticed. Paper, you must allow inspection. We're seeing what appears to be a violation. Failure to do so will result in further action that could be a penalty. You have to allow access, but it doesn't say in the existing ordinance or the working ordinance that this inspection will include, let's see if there's people living in it. Let's see if it does have a tag. We really couldn't see it from the street because it's parked pointing towards the right of way. So I'm going to go back there and check. No, The ordinance says specifically, we can only gain access to determine the location, I guess for zoning purposes, whether it's the 3 feet, the rear and side setback. It doesn't even say we can measure the RV upon inspection to see if it violates the 33-foot limit or right? So the inspection is very limited in the new ordinance and in the existing one to location, which I think means just, are they complying with a 3-foot buffer in the rear and side setback of the house? And that's all it allows for. Anything else we observe in there is not in the purview of the inspection, apparently, according to the ordinance. Am I correct, sir?
No, I think there's something in here that in parking, it says at all times a boat trailer shall have current license plate and registration. Then it
Yeah,
shows- so it
RV,
has
not
to
boat
be
trailer, RV.
Vessel or boat, it says.
No, yes, but the inspection that we can enter the property does not include, according to
Right,
the
right, right,
ordinance,
right.
to inspect for any of that.
Mr. Zogby's
It's-
right.
Yeah.
That was not amended. That was an existing portion of the ordinance that says that the property owner must allow access to his property, shall allow access to his property to determine the location of the recreational vehicle. And he's absolutely correct. That would be for zoning purposes to determine whether or not they were abiding with the setback requirements, if it was if there were a recreational vehicle in the backyard that we can give them a code for. At that point, if they wouldn't allow us access, which they have the right to do, it would be a code violation, and we can cite them with a code violation for violating the code, but you couldn't just go onto the
Now-
property.
Right.
I just wanted to add one thing, and I'm sorry. Thank you for clearing that up. As far as from what Alexis said, as far as the information on the vehicle, if they have to be registered, which they have to be, a search will provide a description of the vehicle and will tell you without you having to measure it. Is it 24 feet? Is it 36 feet? Is it? And the same thing with the boat and trailer. So if they're tagged, the only thing is you have to do it by cross-referencing the address. If you can't see the tag, the way the boat is parked or the RV, then you just have to do it by running it. You can't read the tag and then run the tag. You have to run the address, but there is a way, and if it doesn't come up, like I said, now they're in violation. Probably a notice will say, we couldn't find a registration for this vehicle. You must provide it to the city or you're in violation, whatever the notice would say. I'm sorry, I yield my time. Thank you.
Councilwoman, you
No,
had a question.
I was gonna speak about that we already in the ordinance have the right to go in, to ask them to go in order to see it. And I was gonna bring up that it was only where it's parked. That was the only thing that we have the right to. And no, that was it. That was it.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Believe it or not, as limited as this seems, and probably Alex, if you agree, and sir, city attorney, I'm comfortable with it because it's the least intrusive. Trust me. If we start knocking on doors at night saying, do you live here or are you just hanging out here a little while? Because it doesn't say that the owner of the house can't use it as a temporary man cave sometimes. I don't want to hear my wife yelling at me, so I'm here to get some peace and quiet and watch my baseball. Are you going to knock on the door and determine if they're permanently? Everything else is very intrusive and we're going to run into problems. But if we keep it like this, an inspection, but like I said, we have to realize it is very limited. It's not to inspect anything else, whether it's a living quarters. And I don't know how we're going to get around the living quarters because sometimes it's obvious they're lit at night. You see the activity, but how do we prove it? How do we prove it? It isn't just the owner just hanging out in there for some, R&R.
Through the chair, one of the things that the neighbors, it's all right. One of the things that the neighbors have been saying is they're bothered with the RV because they have people and they have, music at night and they have visitors and whatnot. But they don't want to say anything because they're their neighbors. They don't want to say anything. And that is something that has happened all the time. It doesn't matter whether it's an RV, whatever it is, if you have an issue with your neighbor, you normally aren't going to call code.
That's why
to
it's
let
up
them
to
know.
us. That's why it's up to us to do proactive enforcement because people are scared to call. And secondly, now there's a statute that says if you call, there's no longer the anonymity of, I think my neighbor has a code violation. Now you got to get your name and number. Are you kidding me? And that's subject to public records release.
Right.
If the defendant says, well, who complained? They're going to know. So nobody's going to call him. We have to do the proactive enforcement
Correct.
and do it for them. They deserve it. The citizens in the city deserve us to do this.
And I think they're taking this to another level because there's a property that has 2 RVs in the back. And they just bought a porta potty and put it in the corner in between both RVs.
Lidor has the same problem near his house. That's the same house, isn't it?
I'm sure. I was looking at and I said, how strange, there's a porta potty here and they're just like delivering it. I went, oh my God. So it is an issue. We just have to enforce. And I think I think the original ordinance, there's certain things that we should change, but I think the original ordinance and one of the comments that I was gonna make, Mayor, is you were saying about zoning, if we put it in the front of the house. I saw in Miami Springs, one of the things when they have commercial vehicles, that if they have to put it in the front because it doesn't fit in the side, which is where they requested between the side and the back, they do ask to come and do a variance. The same thing, it's the same process of variance if you have, a setback of 5 feet and you need 10, that type of thing. So you come and do a variance and that way they park it in the front. I think the neighbors would complain about it, but at least there's a process and we're giving them an out if it doesn't fit in the side of the house.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, look, we always got to be mindful that, you need to be a good neighbor, right? Even parking it on the side, allowable or whatever we permit, how much to the fence line, right? Some will park it and they're literally ramming that thing in between their home and the fence
Correct.
and they're right on top of their neighbors, okay? And that in itself could lend to a problem. If you don't have the space and you're parking kind of in the front or half in the front, half on the side or fully on the, yeah, I do think maybe there should be some process where neighbors, because you never know, right? And it's like everything we deal with. Some neighbors will come forward, speak against it. Some rather not have an
Right.
issue with their neighbors. But I would tell you that it would be, I had it in the back of my house. I had a person
I know.
park his RV right up to my fence line. And I talked to him about it. And, it was there only temporarily, but I can only imagine if he thought in terms of, I'm just going to park it here. This is where it's at. Well, you have somebody literally peering into your backyard,
Right.
all day long. And so there are a lot of homes that don't have the space to do it. And I'm just, again, I don't want to create more work than needs to happen, but maybe that's another tool, if you don't go and get your variance, if you don't go get some sort of permit and almost an acknowledgement. I'm parking it here. I'm not using it to rent. I take it out every 3, 4, 5 times a year. I go camping or I go traveling in the state of Florida, wherever you go. We don't want to punish that guy. What we want to punish, quite honestly, and I'll say it for the record, is that we have a lot of folks that are buying homes in Hialeah, no intention of living in the home. And on top of the fact that they're illegally cutting it in half, renting it to 2 to 3 families. Side note, recently we're looking at, the official statistics of 233,000 people in Hialeah. I don't buy it for a second. Okay, so you have that going on. And on top of that, I'm living in Coral Gables. I just bought the home. I cut it in half. And then I'm also sticking in, 1 or 2 RVs.
Right.
They don't do it in Coral Gables. They don't do it in Miami Lakes. They don't do it other places. We have to draw the line at some place, okay? And I know it's not
Easy.
easy, it's not pretty, it has its thorns in it. But if we don't draw the line, I'm telling you, because I lived it with the efficiency situation. And when the city tried to get its arms around
Too
it,
late.
it was way too late, okay? We don't even talk about efficiencies anymore here, okay? I don't think we got to get to that same point with the RVs. This is different. This is a whole different other animal. And the way people are moving the real estate market in the city of Hialeah, we should be very concerned because we're not getting people that are planting roots in Hialeah, okay? The investors are looking at it. There's a money-making opportunity. They see the rents where they're at, and then they add an RV or 2 or 3, and hey, a house is producing $15,000 a month in income.
Right.
So for what it's worth, yes, a variance may be something that could be worked into the ordinance.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Thank you. what Alex said about the auction trailers, auctioned RVs. If we enforce, and I'm not implying that we're not enforcing, no, it would be at times we have to put, priorities, and there are plenty of priorities here. But if we make it a priority, they run a wonderful department. But let's say we make it just by enforcing those unregistered, and they can't complain. It's in the books. People, the residents will push back when all of a sudden you change something on them that was allowed yesterday, and today you're not allowing it because you're being capricious. This was always the law in the book, in the ordinance, or the rule in the ordinance, and it will be currently. They have to be registered. So all those FEMA auction trailers and all that, theoretically, those are fair game, low hanging fruit. Boom, 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 out of here. Limiting it to 1 and 1. That alone is a great start. Did you know that according to the ordinance, you have to park, now it's 24 feet, boat or RV in front of the house. 24 feet is allowed. And it has to be pointing towards the right of way. It cannot be parked parallel to the house, like covering the front of the house. It has to be pointing towards the right. Right of way is your sidewalk and street. So the rear or the front has to be pointing like that. And it's 24 feet. A lot of people currently don't comply with that. And of course, like we say, they have more than one trailer, but just by attacking and checking registrations and addresses, that was a great idea. Without being intrusive from the outside, that can be done, right? Just by doing that, we can attack a lot of the unregistered trailer. There are construction office trailers I see being put in backyards. They're not all RVs. These are never meant to be used as recreational. But just by attacking that, we can eliminate a lot of the problem, and they can't complain. That's been in the books. That's on you. You did this, and there's no excuse for that, but go on.
I think people are going to disagree regardless because you haven't been enforcing it. I don't think they're going to really tell the difference. And we have a bigger problem now. Like the mayor said, we have people living in it. So either way, I think they're going to be upset, whether they're going to say it's been in the books and you haven't enforced it, or you're changing because now there's a new crisis. I think it's up to us to make that decision. And at the end of the day, it's a hard decision to make because we don't want, like the mayor said, we don't want to enforce it to seem like, we're telling our residents what to do. We're enforcing communism on them. That's not what this is. This is about keeping it safe, keeping it classy in our neighborhoods, making sure that we're keeping all the residents accounted for that are living on that property, that they're not taking advantage and exploiting our city. And I think that it's our responsibility to do that, but still allow people to have these recreational vehicles because people like to go on campers, people like their boats, but we have to enforce it. And that's why I want to see how our coding department has been enforcing what's in the books already. I think that's important to see, the percentage of infractions that we have throughout the city and see really how this has already been enforced, what's in the books as is. I think that I have another question. So I was seeing when there's a duplex, do then we allow 2 boats and 2 RVs? So then there's 4 recreational vehicles on the property because there's 2 property owners? How does that work?
No, ma'am. At the last line of the amended ordinance, I have here that parking of recreational vehicles shall be prohibited
What
on
page is
property
that?
developed as duplex. Page 4
Oh,
of
it's
the
on this.
ordinance.
Not online. Page 6. Commercial vehicles, recreational boats, vessels shall be prohibited. So they're not allowed to have any recreational if it's a duplex?
According to this ordinance, this amended ordinance, you would be prohibited from having a recreational vehicle or a vessel on property developed as duplex or 0 lot line because of the problem that you just stated.
Okay. So we're only allowing it on single family homes.
Property zone residential.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last statement?
It would be, you would only be allowed to park the RVs on property zone residential,
Duplex or residential?
Right.
but that it would be prohibited in a duplex.
Okay.
Is a townhouse, through the chair, townhouse, in this case, it doesn't specify. Would that be considered a residential single family?
It would.
Okay.
But they have a zero.
But
lot
if it's
line.
a zero lot
No,
line,
not-
then
Not all of them. There's like corner.
not all,
ones.
okay.
There's some properties that are on the corner
Right.
that are townhouses that have a lot of property. So you're right. So then. Okay.
Because currently the code, I believe they can't, is it townhouse condominiums, no recreational, no boats in any parking in condominiums. But townhouses, we do allow it now. Remind me, do we ever enforce that in a townhouse currently? I mean, it's not specific here.
I don't know.
Okay.
They're saying
Yeah,
yes. Yes, we don't. Okay.
So we don't know that, we don't know if townhouse will fall under this, under certain conditions, whether it's a residential. In other words, people living in townhouses, can they or can they not?
If they would have a zero lot line, no.
No. And if we make it on the side of the house, very few of them will be able to do it unless it's a corner lot of a townhouse. Yeah,
Correct.
Okay.
What's dangerous with those though, is that I think for clearance purposes, when you're churning, it makes
Mhm.
it difficult to see. So I don't know if I would feel comfortable on certain properties because
I
then
agree.
it blocks.
And if you notice too, on that, through the chair,
Yes,
there's a lot of people who park it on the side of their house, but they use an illegal driveway, a gate which was never a permitted driveway in order to retrofit it in there. They really can't get it in the, through the front of the house or for whatever reason, or they place it in the yards not through a crane, through an illegal gate. They make a gate through the fence and they bring it in there, but
Through the chair.
I would be, I would be okay with allowing, and that's a discussion that maybe we should have. If they did do something illegal on the side to park that, I don't know, Mayor, how you feel about this, but maybe allowing those properties to sign it off to say you're up to code now that your vehicle is parked on the side. Can we do something like that as a forgiveness to
Variance.
our residents? And just say, okay, you did this, the concrete, you did this illegal roof over your boat or over your RV, but we're gonna put you into compliance because it abides to having it on the side of your house. Can we do some kind of honesty, and then people might feel comfortable with us passing this and not enforcing.
Yeah, look, probably through variance, you could cover a lot of, you may be able to close the loop on certain things. Look, if you are generally using your RV for the intended purpose,
Mhm.
you probably won't have any major issues as far as trying to comply. I don't think you would, no? The one who's gonna have a problem is the person who's renting it out to either a family member or somebody. That's who's gonna have a problem with this. Because if you're lending the inspectors more tools, if we change it up a little bit, if we decide to do a task force to only go after, identify and try to go after all these that are being used illegally, who we're gonna upset? The person who's doing illegal activity. That's who we're gonna upset. And I don't have a problem upsetting that person. Because I think most residents in our city, we're not, it's not like if we're talking about 50% of the homes in Hialeah have an RV parked in it, because that's not the case. The report that Alexi shared with me a couple of months ago, I mean, I don't know how many homes we have per se, but it was like 200, 240, something like that. Homes that have, at least that we know about, okay? Add another 100 or so that we don't know about. So you were not talking about a massive number. The problem is that it's being used illegally. They're basically flaunting it in your face that they're doing it illegal. And if you continue to permit it, then somebody who all their life has been law abiding, they say, wow, what's the big deal, But yeah, I think, through variance, you could address a lot of these things, because there are some folks that don't have the space to park it on the side and may want to go through a process to at least, if all of you have, Mr. Attorney, maybe you can guide me on this, but if you have suggestions that you'd like to see incorporated into the legislation, you could submit them in writing so that we could, bring it all forward. And maybe this is not the only workshop we have, maybe that we have another one, so that the law department could go ahead and kind of like work and bake the things that the concerns into a legislation, if there are more things that we want to add.
Can we finish seeing the presentation? I think we cut it. We were on page 2.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's good to stop and
Maybe
have
they'll-
discussions in the parts, but go ahead. Councilman, you wanted to speak?
Mr. City Attorney, thanks, City Attorney.
Just
Yes,
wanted
you're
to
right.
say, that suggestion from the mayor's fine. If there are such suggestions from the council persons, they should be submitted individually to the law department or the mayor was the administration, not copying one another. And based on direction from the mayor and the council, we just wanted to briefly note that because this renting is an issue, the ordinance already does not allow the RV to be used for living, sleeping, or storage. So we propose to add a provision to say that it will not be offered to others besides the owners for those purposes. And in terms of what the building director said earlier about city registration would be duplicative and redundant, simply going to propose to modify this to say that, all RVs will have current state of Florida DMV registrations, and those have to be, provided, and, they have to be available. Thank you.
City Attorney, are we requesting that the state registration on the license plate is registered to the same homeowner that's living in the house?
Well, that's a good question. Normally, because I would say that the answer is on deliberation, yes, because the RV is the whole premise of the RV in the city is that it's owned by the owner. I don't believe that there's any provision in the code for an owner to, the residential unit is not a recreational vehicle area as defined by state statutes.
Mhm.
So if you have an RV there, it's because it has some connection to you or your family and camping and sports. And so the answer I would give you is yes.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, sorry.
I have
Your
a
recognition.
question. Somebody that's been renting a house for 20 years, 15 years, and just didn't purchase their house and now is renting somebody's house and they have an RV. They can park their RV in the home that they're paying for rent?
I would think that you would have a lease with your name
Correct,
attached to the
correct.
house.
But
so that-
homeowner and lease is different.
But it would reflect that you're living there.
Living
that's-
there is different. The question was homeowner and the answer was that it would be a homeowner. So I just want to
I believe.
clarify.
I believe so. That's the idea. So if you were a long-term tenant, okay, to me, that gets in the landlord tenant. But typically, when you're a long-term tenant in a residential structure, you're renting the structure, the unit, the residential unit. If you're going to have an RV there, I would tend to think that there has to be some special provision in the lease,
Not because
that-
you're a camper? Oh, in the lease.
in the lease.
Okay.
Because otherwise, what right do you have? You're renting a home. I don't think that carries with it a right under Florida law to park an RV there if it's not your home. If you're not the homeowner, it's my opinion, subject to research, but offhand, I
Okay.
don't think,
So
so
we have a lot of tenants. We have a lot of tenants that have lived in properties or a lot of renters that have lived in properties for a long time. And they have a boat parked in front of their house.
if that is an issue with, I would say, I don't know offhand, but a long-term tenant as opposed to short-term rentals.
Correct.
Maybe that could be something to be considered in one of these administrative variant sections. That if you have special circumstances because you're renting a home for, over 20 years or something, and I don't know how common that is, but I hope I answered your question.
You
Is that-
did.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
To your point, I like, City of Miami Gardens, one of the requirements for an RV, it says the vehicle or vessel must be owned by the occupant of the residential property. Doesn't say owner, but the occupant must be there. That's on their ordinance. Must be owned by the occupant of the residential property, and the registration must be current. Proof of ownership, registration, and residency shall be required as part of the application submittal. They actually have permitting in Miami Gardens. You have to get a permit from the city. I don't know what the cost is, but you have to provide to them that the occupant of the residence is the one whose RV will be parked there. They're registered RV. And they have other similar requirements as us, but we don't have that. That may be a good idea to, if everybody agrees, just as a thought, we're just bouncing around that we do require that the occupant, or if it happens to be the owner, so be it, or the occupant is the registered owner of the RV. They're not that people are sharing spaces, and because people might rent it.
Mhm.
We don't want to do that. Hey, I don't have the
Correct.
space. Can I rent for $200 a month? Can I park it in your house, Mr. Neighbor?
Instead of paying it out of lot.
Really? We want Airbnb now for RVs, but so maybe we can add that as far as, yeah,
What-
they do have to be living there.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's it on that point. Thank you.
One of the things could be also that your son or your daughter lives in Coral Gables and they can't park it there and their parents live in Hialeah. So hey, let's leave it at mom and dad's house that they allow it there. And, they're using our properties as a storage lot. What are those parking lots that allow you to place these vehicles? So that's another thought. Good morning.
I just wanted the council to recognize that the whole reason why we have registration, for example, of motor vehicles, is for that motor vehicle to be what we consider street legal. And that means to operate on the roadway. So if Councilman Zogby is bringing up a very good point in regards to the registration being something that the city would actually implement for those occupants to actually register the RV, the boat, and things to that effect with the city. Because the state requires, if it's going to operate in a roadway, a boat, if it's going to operate in a waterway, it needs to be registered, just because the operator needs to have obviously a valid license to conduct that vehicle and also a valid registration. I just wanted to make that point.
But not for the city to have a separate,
No,
as you said, the city, the state, meaning that it has to be through the
no,
state.
I'm suggesting, basically, my opinion is that Mr. Zogby is on the right track in regards to the city actually saying that you would have to apply for a permit with the city for the RV to be stationed within your property, meaning that RV, it needs a registration once it's operating on the roadway. But in regards to just having, let's say, a junk car inside of your property, or, just the RV within your property, that will require a city permit.
It should, right. It would make it convenient. Then we don't have to run around and cross-reference with the state database with David and everything else they call it. See the tag. If we had a permit, what the people aren't going to like, if we do create a permitting process, is just bring us in what the law requires now. Bring us a copy of your registration and everything is up to date, and that'll give us the description of the vehicle. But they don't like a fee. And I know there's a cost, there's an administrative cost
Of
to
course.
run that operation, to register, to maintain that database. But the fee, they're not going to like. So if we do create that, we got to do the most reasonable low fee, and renewal or whatever will be required, right? That's going to have a lot of pushback.
We've discussed it with the
Okay.
building department, sir, and it would be a $0 fee.
Well, that would be, that would be even better. Can it go lower than that? No, I'm just.
We can pay you.
A bounty. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, any other discussion on the council? Anybody else?
Well, you've been quiet.
Is there more? Can we finish seeing the rest of the presentation if you don't mind?
Sure, it just discusses, so this slide would discuss the setback or the location of the recreational vehicle. You can see that we would only be allowing it on the two side yards, and of course, the 24 feet length requirement. The next slide. just discusses that at all times, the recreational vehicle would have current license plate and current registration. And that you cannot use the recreational vehicle for sleeping purposes or storage purposes, which is already existing, as Ms. Casals Munoz has already pointed out, in the current ordinance. The next slide, that this discusses the registration. If we were to move forward with a city registration, it would be akin to what you see here. I guess that would be up for further discussion. Go ahead, Melissa. Now we get into parking of boats and vessels. It's no different than parking of the recreational vehicles, 24 feet in length and only permitted on the 2 side yards. So I guess if you have 1 side yard, you would have to decide if you want a recreational vehicle or a boat in this ordinance.
And if you could fit the boat and the recreational vehicle on one side,
I don't see a problem with that.
okay, and we're allowing 2 recreational vehicles,
No,
correct?
ma'am, 1 recreational vehicle, 1 boat. The proposed ordinance says you
Vessel.
shall not have more than 1 recreational vehicle. And in the vessels and boats section, it says you shall not have more than 1 vessel or boat.
And vessel or boat,
Mhm.
only 1. So if you can have 2 vessels
No, ma'am.
in 1 property if you don't have a recreational vehicle.
Correct.
So if somebody has 2, what do you call those things the jet skis?
Correct.
You can't have them on your property,
Correct.
but you could have a recreational vehicle and a boat.
The way the ordinance reads currently, correct.
Should we clarify that a little bit? A lot of people have,
I don't,
Jet
mi-
skis.
I don't, jet skis don't bother me. Through the
I thought you
chair.
were gonna say
Right.
jet skis don't
Yeah,
bother you.
no.
We're not asking you if they
So
bother you.
we should
I'm asking-
ban them in the city, right?
Right, completely, because if you don't like them,
I don't-
forget about
people are not
anybody
complaining
else.
about the jet skis.
No.
Forgive me, through the chair. Yes. Mhm.
No, through the chair. I think what she means is, for example, 1 recreational vehicle, which is motorhome, trailer, etc., and 1 boat. So then if somebody has a boat and jet skis, because a jet ski is not the same as it's a vessel, but it's not the same as a boat. It's like a motorcycle, right? Let's say. Then
Don't go
they
there with the
won't be.
motorcycles. I got
then
you.
they can't have a boat and a jet ski. And for example, like she said, two jet skis, for example, or 4, they all fit in 1 trailer. It's not like they would have 2 trailers, or 4 trailers if there's 4 jet skis. So then putting it like this, 1 and 1, they wouldn't be able to have motorhome or trailer, or let's say maybe they don't have it, and boat and maybe jet ski. They wouldn't be able to have it.
Correct.
So we could revisit that, I think. If it fits in your yard.
Well, right
If it
now,
fits.
through the way that the layout is on the map, I don't know how someone's gonna be able to fit a motorhome, a boat, and 4 jet skis. On
No,
the
no,
way
no,
that
no,
this
we're
is,
saying, no. We're agreeing, but the jet skis fit in 1 trailer. What we're saying is, if you don't have a motorhome,
Yeah.
no,
you don't
I
have a-
understand what
right,
you guys are
you
saying.
can't have
I'm just saying,
3 jet skis?
the way that the map is, hear me out, it's showing that we're allowed to have it obviously on the side of the residence, right? What page is this? I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's,
Where it says
right here.
parking number 1, the
Correct,
interior lot
correct.
and the side lot. It's saying that we're allowing on the side of the house and on the front of the driveway.
Mhm.
So I don't know if maybe to expand that, maybe it should be here on the parallel side of the backyard. So it's this whole kind of linear. I would prefer it, I mean, I understand the discussion that if it's in the backyard, they could propose, illegal
Yes.
activity, but I would prefer it in the back to the side than in the front driveway of the house.
right. Well, anything on the front, I think we're visiting maybe a variance if you need, if something
doesn't
doesn't
fit
fit
right
on the
now-
side.
Right now, the way it looks is we're allowing it from the front driveway to the back of the residence, but not in the backyard.
Correct, but that's, I think that
This
the
is wrong.
backyard is if somebody's living in a boat or in an RV, that you park it in the backyard of the house. And that was the idea, but I don't think anybody could live in a jet ski.
But I think that as neighbors, we would want someone's boat and their jet skis parked in the back of the home instead of the front of the driveway. Because when you look out your front door and you look to the side, you can't see if there's anything happening in your neighbor's house, if there's any kind of, I don't know, a robbery, something illegal happening. You want to be able to step outside your front door and look to the side and make sure that it's clear on your driveway, right?
No, I agree, but one of the questions that we had was if you don't fit your motorhome on the side, that we were thinking of, if you're gonna park it in the front because you go out 3 and 4 times a year in your motorhome, that you would get a variance. And when we spoke about that at the very beginning of the conversation of this meeting, was the neighbors might not like it, but that's why you do a variance, because when you do a variance, it's telling the neighbors that they're asking for something that's unique, and the neighbors get to choose.
Right.
But the fact that
But right now,
somebody has
the
a,
rear blocked. We're not allowing it in the rear. at
no,
all.
I understand. But what I'm saying is, we're limiting to a motorhome and a boat. What if somebody doesn't have a motorhome and a boat and has 4 jet skis? And they have it in a trailer and they fit on the side of the house, or they have to get a variance to park it in the back of the house. We're limiting to what you want to play with. You
Right.
can't afford a mobile home and a boat,
Mhm.
and you don't have, certain properties that fit a motorhome and a boat on the side of the house. That's happened before. Or there's a small house with a lot of big, sides. The house I live in has huge sides on the side. We could park, the jet skis on the side. What I'm saying is we're limiting to somebody that they're going around, and not that they should be checking, but you could see that there's 4 jet skis and you go, wait a minute. We don't allow 4 jet skis and, to park in your home.
Or if they have a boat and jet ski.
Okay, or they have a boat and jet skis, but
Okay.
not a motorhome.
Just an example.
Right, just to keep our eye on the ball, guys, we don't have a jet ski problem, okay? And nobody's living in a jet ski.
Correct.
Yes.
When we talk about, at least in my thought, what we're talking about a variance, I still think the variance should be attributed to an RV that's parked, but facing the right of way. Not
Atravesado.
parked in front of the house sideways, because it's an eyesore.
Right,
B, I do believe it lends to perhaps safety issues. If our
Agreed.
police officers have to respond to a home with an RV parked, you're just adding a whole bunch of layers of danger, right? So when, at least in my mind, when we talk about a variance for a home that doesn't have the space to park in the side of the home, and they're gonna park it where it's encroaching on the front, it has to be,
correct,
facing facing the street, where if they go out, they're going right out to the street. They're not,
Right.
having to drive out of their driveway or a circular driveway perhaps. So I think that should be extremely important. And again, I would, for me, the issue is the illegal use of the RV. So if we for now want to limit our discussions to that and remove boats and jet skis, that kind of stuff right
Perfect.
now, I don't think, what is sticking in our side, what we see as a problem. Many of you have been going through the budget with us. One of the things that jumps out at me, if our population, and I hate to go back to this, but if our population in the books is 233,000 and change, but in reality, we've got 300,000 people living in our homes. We have a lot of residents that are subsidizing the living for other people, the garbage, all the stuff, right? To say, I stated earlier, I don't think this is we don't have 5,000 RVs in the city of Hialeah. But if we start at least creating some parameters, then I think we could stop the illegal activity or make it difficult for those that are acting in an illegal fashion, because there's going to be rules of engagement. Right now, many could say, well, I don't, I bought it here, and I bought the house this way, all the excuses we've heard for years, right? But we got to draw that hard line in the sand, and I think this is where it's at. This is where it's at. You're not going to eliminate people's pleasure and the hard work that they had to be able to buy that RV, but what we're not going to do is reward the person who bought it in una subasta or whatever means they did, to then just figure, stick it in Hialeah, they don't care, or this is a Wild West. I don't want to live like that anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think there should be something that excludes like dirt bikes, motorcycles, golf carts, jet skis, those kind of things that people aren't living in. Obviously, we don't want them to have un taller and doing mechanic and all this, having 15 of these things in their backyard.
Right.
But they're allowed to have that, and if they, they have them, that's not a problem.
What I can do is in the definition of boats and vessels, I can just put that this definition shall not include the term jet ski.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
that's
and
a
if they have a
simpler fix.
trailer with their jet skis, that's their prerogative. That's,
Like the mayor said, I don't think we're, we don't want to limit somebody's ability to use a jet ski.
Right. yeah.
Through the chair,
Yes, sir.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
to the mayor's point, I absolutely agree. This is just my opinion. We're here, the problem is the RVs. And I'll say it again, the reason why they weren't being enforced is they were not a problem till recent history.
Mhm,
That's why they weren't being, we had other priorities that our code had to go. They were not a problem. It was
mhm.
okay. People were using them for legitimate reasons to go to the Keys and whatnot. Now they're a problem, but the boats, I'm sort of okay with just tweaking the boats a little and then moving on to that. One boat, don't even talk about the jet skis for now, unless that becomes a problem later on. I don't predict that.
Mhm.
One boat, I don't even have a problem with what exists now, 24 foot in front of the house or up to 33 feet on the side of the house, as long as we put in the language that other cities have. When it means on the side of the house, 33, it means the boat will start at the property line of the structure of the building, not like halfway into the front and then the
Right,
other half
right.
in the back. No, it's got to be at where the property line of the building structure, the house starts. That's where the boat starts and then it goes back. If it's 33 feet or less, I don't have a problem with that. And even the front of the house. Why? Why do I say I don't have a problem with the front of the 24 feet as long as they abide by the current ordinance where they're pointing towards the right of way part straight out into the street. Because this doesn't put an undue burden on those people who bought it legally. When we did allow to, and they don't have a space on the side of the house. Now you're making them go through a variance to put in the front. As long as they have one RV and it's 24 foot and it's in the front of the house, same as the boat. And I think it's okay because if it's more than that, they can't complain. Well, you were never in compliance anyway, so now you got to fix it. But we're not attacking those people who had it for legitimate reasons or have had it there and they made the investment and now, that we're going to change
agree.
that. So I
I
think
agree.
the size of the boats is fine. The RV we can talk about having at all in the front of the house, but this either as long as 24 foot in front, pointing towards the right of way, or up to 33 feet on the side of the house with the 3 foot. With the 3 foot setback on the side
Which was
also,
on the
just like
original.
with the RV, which was not in the current ordinance because it's what the mayor's been saying. They'll park a billboard right up to your fence with the RV. So
The
I'm okay
current,
with the boats the same size that is allowed now and in the front of the house up to 24 feet. That's my opinion. One boat,
the current
residence.
says 3 feet from the wall,
The working one or
Yeah.
the old one?
the old one.
3 feet. from the fence.
Let me
3
check.
feet.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
That would be
Yes.
good. Then we can, yeah. It says, then we have that tool there
It
already.
says on number 1, a recreational vehicle, it's the last line, it goes on to page 3.
I look like the White House spokesman with her binder.
I saw that.
That's not a good, that's
That-
not a
You're
good
preparing
compliment.
yourself.
I apologize about that. Okay, 33, it's in there already?
33,
feet?
yeah.
Page 3, number
Okay,
Number one.
residential be stored.
D1,
I don't, where is it?
D1,
D1.
but it goes on to the second, the following page, which.
I
here
stand
says page
corrected.
3.
It is indeed there.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Awesome. So we don't have to change that.
Or-
Mhm.
I'll take that word.
Not that people are respecting it right now, but it's in there that we can start, that's
What
another
does that
tool.
take? See?
I through the chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna repeat the same thing that I had said in the last meeting. This is about enforcement. If we have a law that's very similar to the law that we have now, we're tweaking the law and that's perfect. But we need to make sure that we're enforcing it. So we keep making things more difficult. If what is easy in the law, we haven't been able to enforce it, or we haven't enforced it. And now it's an issue and we have to make sure that we enforce it. But the rules between one and the other are very, very similar. The law that's on the books right now is almost mimicking what we changed, other than it's 1 and 1. The other way it was, whatever fits in your yard specified. So I think that we're continuously having these conversations. And what we need to do is start enforcing and make sure that the public knows that we're gonna start enforcing this.
I think that's why it's important to have these meetings and not
Agree?
just set rules, because
Right.
we're not out there, we're not in the field, we don't know. And I think that that's really important to have these discussions with these departments, because they know how to enforce it. They know what the problem is. They've seen it. We need that data of what they've done thus far and kind of get feedback from these departments and say, hey, I could do this, I can't do this, I think this is more of an issue, and really get their feedback. It
Absolutely,
is
'cause
very
we-
important, because we could stand up here and say X, Y, and Z, but they're the ones that are
They're the ones
they're
that
out there
have
in
to
the
do it,
field,
and
and we
they're
have to
gonna say,
respect their opinions.
This
So,
doesn't work.
yeah,
So
it's absolutely important to hear any feedback that you guys could guide us with, and we could work together to really make this solid. We keep on interrupting you.
No,
Go ahead.
I'm just,
you're
I
ever
need to
gonna
write
finish?
this. What's the footage? I mean, I need to include a footage on this.
24, I think is what we said, right?
On the votes, Madam President, are we
Yes, I think that's-
specifically just
Let's,
trying to get rid of or get past the votes?
How about if it fits?
If what fits?
If it fits in your house. You can't park something that doesn't fit in your house.
I'm
Right, the
sorry, but the
clearance, the
existing,
sidewalk.
we're talking about boats.
We're
What are
talking
you
about
talking-
boats.
I
Yeah.
think-
both. I mean,
Okay.
Oh, if a 24-foot doesn't fit, then it doesn't fit. It can't
Right.
encroach into the right of way, into the sidewalk.
And a
So we would just
24,
have to write that. 24 feet, or if it encroaches on the sidewalk,
there.
then that's, but I don't think it has that, or, does it?
No.
No, it does
yes,
not
it
have,
does. It says you
I
can
don't see
encroach
it.
into the sidewalk.
you see it?
I do. I mean, I don't know
don't
it's
see it.
there.
I don't
I don't
see it,
see
but
that.
yeah, if we want to add that, yeah.
I think it's important to include that, because they're gonna say it's 24, but it's over my sidewalk. So we have to make sure that
It
We
it
include
does
that
say
wording.
about the sidewalk.
you see it.
Includes adjacent to right of way or
It's in
sway
there.
area.
It's in there.
What
It's
page?
in there. It's
Okay.
on the current one. It's E4.
P,
E4 in the current
E,
highly ordinance. Let me see in the working one.
At all times, a boat trailer shall have current license plate and registration. Boat and vessel parked on
No.
zoning shall not occupy living or storage.
Okay, I don't
It's
see
like-
it.
I
in
don't
the
see it.
current one.
Not
Let's see,
limited.
in the.
A boat or
working one.
vessel, it's 3 says it. It's including but not limited to the right of way, swell area or sidewalk. You cannot park it on either one of those.
Yeah, but it's lacking. Why? I could be wrong. The existing.
Not be parked
the
or stored
working
on the
one.
public parking, including but not limited to right of way, swell area or sidewalk.
The existing ordinance has in that sense, it continues by saying shall not encroach or block the right of way or sidewalk. Are we missing this in the working one?
does it say that?
The working one?
The existing ordinance. When it says where the boat needs to be parked, right of way, swale, it can't be parked in the swale area, sidewalk, blah, blah, blah.
The right away.
And then it also says shall not encroach or block the right of way or sidewalk. That means a
Yeah.
boat that's in the driveway, but it's a little too long.
Is this?
Right,
the-
that
for
was-
your driveway.
that wasn't amended.
That, is it in there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's
It
there.
should be because it's not.
It's on number 2
Okay,
on page 4.
it's not
The
scrolled out,
problem,
so
the
it should
problem
be.
is.
E2.
The problem is that
There it is.
ordinance that we have are missing they're missing B and C. The ordinance, when we received the ordinance last time, they were missing those 2.
Well, they weren't amended,
They weren't amended, so that's why they were removed.
correct?
Okay.
So, Mr. Zogby, I'd like to clarify because in the ordinance that exists, it says that you can have a boat on the side yard and a boat in the front yard. Are you suggesting we keep that language?
No,
or
no.
We change it to
I
or?
agree personally. I don't know if my colleagues, I agree with the starting point. One boat
Got it.
doesn't, our jet skis don't count. One boat, right? I mean, no.
But either or on the side or the front. 33 on the side, 24 in the
Yes.
front.
Yes, exactly. I was just going to say that as long as it's the length that is allowed now and that the 33-foot one starts at the structure line
Yes, sir.
of the, not, you know,
And the size of the RVs?
oh, we're not there yet.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah, we're doing boats and that's the.
I apologize.
Next time, can we?
I can't afford an RV in a
Next time when we
boat.
get a printed copy, can we print the whole ordinance? Because right now, this one is missing B, it's missing C, and I'm going back and forth. Next time, can we print the whole thing, whether it was amended or not? The whole,
I can provide that for you now.
okay,
We can have, yeah.
I don't, because I don't have,
This is over one.
okay. Thank you,
Of what exists now.
right.
Okay.
No, and of the new one, because the new one is missing B.
Correct.
And C also. Right, go ahead.
And Mr. Zogby, it all, the existing ordinance also states for the 24 feet in the front yard that you can park that in the rear yard. Are we eliminating that as well?
Does any boat, only boat? So if you have one boat and you don't want to park it in the front of the house or the side, you can park the existing one 24 feet in the rear? No.
Yes, sir.
Oh, the working one. I mean, no rear in the working one. I don't know. I really, if it's only one boat and it's on the side or the rear, it doesn't matter to me, right?
I would prefer it in the back or the side. I don't think that in the driveway. I
Yeah,
don't know,
if he
that's
can
my
park it in the
personal
back,
opinion, But
one boat, not one in front and one in the side and one in the
So
back.
Ms.
One boat.
Perez just said the rear, but you previously said the front.
If they, I don't have a problem with the rear either, right? With park, and it would be 24-foot limit in the rear?
The way it's written currently in the ordinance, it's 24 feet in the rear or 24 feet in the front and 33 on the side.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with 33 or 24 in the back and then 24 on the side.
Oh, even bigger in the back?
Hold on.
Could we create, I agree.
Fine.
I saw in another ordinance, I forgot if it was Miami Gardens, that the boat cannot take, whatever you put in the rear cannot occupy more than 20%
Yes, sir.
of your yard. Like, in other words, sure, I don't mind a 33-foot boat in the rear, but if your yard is like really tiny, that's like all of your yard, you know?
I believe that's in Miami Springs.
Miami Springs, okay.
I saw
No, I
that too.
I don't want
I
to pull
didn't
out
see
my
that in
binder.
Miami
I'll have
in
to
the
check,
back.
but I saw the same thing.
How about whatever fits?
Yeah,
I think
How about
that's,
whatever?
that's what
fits?
I feel. I think.
If
it's
you
your
have a
backyard and-
27-foot boat and you have a 45-foot trailer, a mobile home, and it fits on the side of your house, by all means, and the neighbor's not complaining, go.
boat, because they're not going to crane a boat. We're not going to allow that with RVs, but boat, we're talking still boats.
Okay.
back- in the
okay, I'm
backyard.
saying either way. Right, but what I'm saying is whatever, correct, RVs in the back, the 45-foot
Not
RV is
RV.
not gonna be able to turn to go to the backyard. I don't have a boat or an RV. I only know what I see out there and what I know of people that have them. I don't have either. So I don't know how big the boat
you
is. I
waiting
know
on
that's
us
a 20,
to
I know
give you
that we
a-
have on the
What is-
ordinance 24 feet. Because that's the only thing that fit in front of regular houses in Hialeah on the east side, which is with the problem that they were having with boats when that ordinance was passed. Because I was here when that ordinance was passed. And it was, the boats didn't fit on the side of the house. So that's the only
this
thing
is-
that fit from in the driveway, in the front part of the house. That's why it was
Through-
24 feet.
Through the chair, and I
Yes, sir.
believe I was told by a guy who knows more about boats than I did, that 33-foot maximum is not just a random thing. I believe that above that, then they're not, they would be considered wide. I'd have to look at the state statute. Then they're a wide load. They're not supposed to be traversed on the roadways. If it's a
Correct.
Big boat.
Correct.
So I think 33 feet was intentional, saying, well, if it's bigger than 33 feet,
You can't.
shouldn't be
drive
driving it around. That's got to be in a marina.
It's a yacht.
So are we saying that we're going to stay with the 33-foot
If
parameters
it fits, correct.
on the side of the house and a 24-foot parameter on the
Front.
front or the rear?
I'm good with the front. I'm good with 33 on the side, but we said that doesn't matter, the
Doesn't
33 or the 20 or the 24 foot. Do you still believe in the 20% area like Miami Springs has though? Like in
think,
other words,
Again, for enforcement purposes, I think that's gonna be difficult to
Yeah,
enforce.
why,
Because
we,
how are you gonna know someone's
Yeah.
20%?
I
think we
agree.
need to
I agree.
fit- I
less is more.
speak to the professionals,
Less
the
is
ones that
more.
know how to do this, I would say.
Well,
It seems
Yeah,
pretty on
I-
paper, but how do you enforce that?
Through the chair, this is policy, but I would like to hear from your code enforcement official because I don't know how you can measure that 20 percent. That seems very inexact to me.
Okay, he's saying no. We
No,
looked
what?
over that way, he's saying no,
okay.
so.
How, one more thing, as far as the 33-foot boat in the back, if they want to go the
I
maximum.
have a feeling it's gonna violate.
It's got to be registered as well. They can't remove a fence well, they're not going to do that. They're going to want, but they're going to want to take the boat out. So they're not going to remove a fence and then put a permanent fence back like they do with RVs, rented RVs, but a lot of the people who have it in their backyard do have an illegal access to it. Because they don't have the space on the side to bring a 33-foot boat to the back. So they actually have created a gate that is not a permitted
So If you live in
driveway.
the corner and you take a remove and you put a sliding in gate and you put it on
But
the side.
it's
you live on
gotta be
50,
permitted.
You know, on the corner,
But it's got to be permitted.
what?
If you create a driveway,
No,
it's
no, no,
got to
I'm
be
not saying,
permitted.
I'm not saying a driveway, I'm saying if you could put a fence that opens, so you could come in.
Can you, Mr. Building Official Alex, can you build a fence without a permitted driveway just to bring your boat in and out through an additional driveway that you may have?
You have to get a permit for the fence.
Mr.
Okay,
Riveron, can
I'm
you come to
sorry,
the
sorry.
microphone,
Come on up here.
please? Just so that it's on record, please.
Come forward and give your name and title, please.
I apologize.
Alexis Rivero, 501 Palm Avenue.
Thank you.
You can get a permit for a
Gate.
fence.
Yeah.
Without having a driveway if you want a slider. But that would be more of a question for Deborah.
Zoning request.
Zone.
So you don't think there's a streets request to create an approach, no necessity for that and all?
Could be.
Maybe, okay.
That would be for Deborah to answer. But can I give you a permit for just the fence itself?
the fence,
For a sliding
yes.
gate? Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
But that could, thank
stay
you,
near,
but that could be something that we include part of the variance,
correct.
yeah, to allow.
Yeah.
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 If you live in the corner and you want the 33 and you
Yeah.
want to put it in the back and you take it out, in the summers only.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, go ahead.
So just to be clear, we're keeping the 33-foot parameter, the side yard, rear yard, backyard or front yard, 1. Okay,
Front yard 24.
Front yard 24, yeah,
front yard 24, backyard 33, side yard 33, 1.
1.
Yeah, it's got to be a boat 2022 or newer. No
Okay.
old boats
Oh.
anymore.
No boats.
Then we can adjourn.
Thank you.
Okay,
I like that.
I like that too. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay, so that's boats.
Yep. And we're including the wording of excluding.
Sure. In the definition, I will exclude the term jet ski from the definition of boats and vessels.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead.
RVs.
Mhm.
Okay,
Um,
are we done? Because it's still frozen on the parking
I think so.
slide.
yeah, the rest of the slides are just regarding boats. So we're
Okay.
back to the RVs
Okay.
discussion. So whatever this council wishes.
Through the chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I think a 24-foot RV is very small. I think the RVs that most of the people I see out there are larger than that. And again, if it fits on the side of the house, if it doesn't fit, can't park it. Yes. She's showing me a picture of the jet ski. She's very concerned. I know. I didn't know if they were considered a boat or not.
Through the chair,
Yes,
The-
sir.
I agree with the Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz. if they can fit the RV with the rules as they are now, up to what we have, 33 foot on the side of the house, starting on the property line of the structure and making sure you have a setback of 3 feet from the side fence. I'm okay with that. I'm even okay with a 24-foot RV, as long as it's parked in the driveway the correct way, as long as they're both there. Well, they're not both. As long as the RV, the one RV on your property, whether it be 24 foot or 33, is registered. And I think I'm okay with nothing in the backyard,
RV,
RV, because that lends to a lot of nefarious
agreed.
stuff that we're not going to be able to see what's going on. I want to see what's going on there, and I think the city inspectors too.
I agree with that.
I agree.
That was
Easy
easy.
enough. So it's
So,
whatever fits.
Let's review. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said whatever fits on the side of your house, the length, I mean. I
Up
I
to
know we have
33 feet.
up to 33
Okay.
feet.
Again, speaking to our enforcement department, is this something that we could enforce? If it exceeds into the backyard, is it something that's doable? Yes? Okay.
You're gonna measure all the RVs, got it?
No, because
Yeah.
we're registered, because we're gonna get a registration from the State Department, and
Right.
if it's registered, it'll tell us the amount. And then how is that enforcement procedure gonna lead us? So we get a review of all the RVs that are registered to the property. Let's say there's one that's 40 feet. What are we gonna do? We go to that house, we knock on that house, and what's that procedure? How long? How do we do
Enforce
this
it, right?
appropriately without? know.
Before you answer that question, I'm curious about something. If you look and it says 40 feet and it fits on the side of your house, are you really gonna tell somebody to remove it?
Some of them may exceed, let's say 45 feet. Some of them may go into your backyard. So I don't know what's.
Right, but it's not parked in the backyard. It has to be
Through-
parked on the
through-
side.
Through the chair,
Yes.
to your point, and I'm sorry, some ordinance I looked at, the rule applies front property line of the structure, front structure line, and cannot go past the rear structure line of the house. In other words, if it's 50 feet and it goes halfway into your backyard, if we're prohibiting it in the backyard, then that's no good anymore.
But if
I-
if it starts at your property line in the front,
In,
if it
of the
starts at the
structure.
property
Yeah.
of the structure of your house
And
Okay, the
surpasses.
wall.
the
Some
setback
cities limited to, yeah.
and it goes past, your
Yeah.
house is 39 feet
Yeah.
and it goes 42 feet, you're going to tell them to move it because it's in the backyard of the house?
Oh, I'm not gonna tell them. Alexis is
Yeah.
personally gonna go tell them.
But that's what I'm saying.
No,
If
no.
it fits,
I see.
if it fits,
But
are
then
we
it's
really
gonna-
gonna be, don't we have? Are we really gonna be nitpicking about if it fits or not?
It depends how,
They can come for a
it
variance.
depends how
They
further
could
back
come
it's
for a
gonna go into the
variance, But
backyard.
not for the backyard.
We're
But if-
gonna know the exact description without having to measure it once they
Correct.
register it.
Correct, but what I'm saying is that the reason.
I know, I know.
The reason of the backyard, tell me if I'm mistaken about this. The reason of the backyard is so you can't put a small one in the backyard and
Right.
rent it out.
Yeah, I
Not,
get you.
not your 45 foot that you're gonna put on the side of your house.
Right.
And I don't know if they go 45 feet. I have no idea.
You do.
But I'm saying that
Yeah.
is that the thing? Because it surpasses the backyard of your house?
The structure.
But it
Okay,
starts in the front.
Let's hear from the
Yeah,
building.
Go ahead.
Department.
Alexis Riveron, 501 Palm Avenue.
You don't have to give your name and your address every time, sir. Go ahead.
If you register it, we're gonna know the size.
Correct?
Mhm,
So it would be, we would have to enforce it with either with a warning or it's not allowed. It
mhm.
won't be allowed. We're not allowing it. The new ordinance.
So, through the chair.
So,
But typically, if, let's say right now it's 33 feet and we don't go out and measure.
mhm.
If it's on the side and we drive by and it looks good, keep on going.
Okay, so if it exceeds, what's the, how to enforce this appropriately? What do you suggest
You provide a
as?
warning, you can provide a warning or go straight to citation.
Okay. And then what's the time period to allow for this resident to find
30 days.
30 days? Okay, yeah. Okay. I would want to work on that.
Or through the
Yeah.
chair, or if it exceeds, a variance.
So
And
the,
a case
the,
on to case basis. But if we put it in the ordinance with no limits,
I
that sounds to me
understand
like a
that.
multi-dwelling rental unit.
I understand that, but you're not, because you're going out to check. The reason I'm saying this is people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on these RVs. And they want them in their property because they don't want them out. Again. I
They were
had
not
this
allowed over
conversation-
33 feet, but they never were allowed over 33 feet. So
No,
then.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but they weren't allowed illegally to be rented, and they are, and they're not allowed in the backyard, and they are, so we have to enforce, that's what I'm saying.
They're allowed in the backyard right now.
I'm sorry, they are allowed, but I'm
RV
saying that
says-
to rent, I'm saying to rent. So the thing is that if you have somebody who bought an RV and has the RV now, and it's parked at their house now, now they're gonna check make sure that they have their tag, they're gonna check and they say, oh, it's past the 33 feet, you have to move it. So now you have to park it somewhere, which before it used to be 2 blocks from where, anywhere in Hialeah. Now you have to go somewhere else to park it where you're not gonna be watching out for this huge investment that you have made of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Are we going to tell those people they're not renting them? We shown that they're not renting. Want to be a little more picky about that? That ordinance says, can we see inside? You could go and check inside, but are we going to tell them they have to move? Because we're passing that law.
Through the chair.
Yes,
The only thing that I fear with that, I totally understand what you're saying. If you've made the investment, you were taking a risk. But right? If you went over 33 feet now, but that being said, if we don't set a limit, what is the limit? A monstrosity of 45 feet
I don't
next
even
to
know if
my
they
yard
exist.
that is bigger than the actual structure it's sitting, the
I don't
property
even
sitting.
know what the
I don't
limit is.
know, but I know
Does
they can.
anybody know what the
Your
limit
average
is?
big RV is 36 foot at times. We got to call Eddie.
Do we have just 45?
45.
Oh,
The
so
longest.
imagine
yeah.
that, but imagine that parked in a resident and they are, oh
Can
my
you-
God.
Can you just, maybe you have an average number, what is the longest length or the average length in feet in a home? What's the average single family home in Hialeah? What's from front to back of the home? What's the average in feet, would we say? Not a townhouse, just a single.
Mine
family
is
home. What do
50
we say?
feet.
Legally,
Yeah.
was.
Okay, well, just give me an average.
So figure if the lot, and this is more for zoning, but
Mhm.
what I know.
Yeah, just an idea.
So you require typically a 25-foot setback in the front,
Okay,
25 in the rear.
okay,
So if the lot is 100 feet, typically your house should
50.
be
50.
50.
okay,
That's my house. now.
typically 50.
Mine is not.
And we're counting from the front porch to the back porch, or we're counting the actual home structure, concrete wall from front,
The structure.
the structure of the home? Okay. Okay,
So that's why maybe the setbacks are in the front 25, 24 feet, because you have to set back at 25 in the front.
Correct.
typically.
That's
Okay.
exactly what it was.
mhm,
We went to the east side of, which has more boats than the west side. Lots are smaller.
Through the chair.
Yes,
Yeah, that's an important little thing. If they have a boat, oh, it's 24 feet. No, but it's supposed to be on a trailer according to the ordinance, and it's supposed to be, and the apex of the trailer will go beyond that. And then that's when it starts encroaching. So yeah, I could see why the 24, but although the wording doesn't say it, it should say 24 feet with the trailer
from the front of the hitch to the back, I guess, yeah. the
or if it fits in front of the house. Like I've got 35 foot in front of my house. I'm still, but the 24 foot that's on the books, if it's enforced, you were gonna say, is it just the vessel or does it include the trailer it's on? Which would then make it probably a 16-foot boat.
Just the vessel, not the hitch. So then the hitch could be encroaching on the sidewalk?
Most- yeah.
No.
No. As long as the hitch doesn't encroach on the side. If it does, then you can't have it.
Is that something we have to include then on?
It's there, right? It's there,
Okay.
it's there. Mhm.
Okay. Any other?
So are we just gonna say, I'm sorry, through the chair, I'm sorry. Are we just gonna say from the front of the house, if whatever fits going back, or are you gonna say 33
Again,
feet?
Again,
Where the
what
same
if they do-
conversation we started. when
what if
we-
they do park a 45-foot monstrosity there?
Mhm.
even if your house is 50 feet long and.
And a
it
boat
doesn't-
behind it. How do you like that?
Mhm.
I don't think we should.
And if
be-
it fits,
Sounds like the trial for Simpson. If it fits, you. If it doesn't fit,
I think at minimum,
Okay.
Ms. Casals Munoz, we should keep what the existing ordinance says. So at least there is
I
a
agree.
maximum.
Oh.
So I'll keep the 33 feet. I think so at least we have something
okay,
that is legally bound. After doing the research throughout the county, it's clear that each city, each municipality has a maximum. It's not just an arbitrary whatever.
that is
fits.
correct. They do.
So-
I did
and-
read them and I
if I-
have them here.
And it's policy for the council, but if I may through the chair,
So
you
you're
should
right.
always have some objective measurement of
Correct.
a size or a feet, because if it's what will fit or 20% coverage, it becomes very subjective and therefore subject to debate
Correct.
as to what complies and what doesn't.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
the 33 feet is fine.
Max.
That's what was there. And let anybody come to variance if they have any other questions about it, case by case.
And what's the variance that we're gonna allow? Do we have to include some?
Well, that would be up to that would be a zoning determination.
Yeah.
And whether or not the applicant for the variance can meet the hardship requirement.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
All right, and then can we put some wording on how long we allow them to find a new location for the RV?
Hmm.
Should we include,
I think he said 30.
I could
but
include,
can we change that?
oh, I'm sorry, to how long to comply with this ordinance?
Correct.
I think we can include an effective date of this ordinance. We can look at this prospectively and say that this ordinance will be effective as of a date of your choosing.
No, what
She-
you,
she meant
what you were
comply.
saying is if somebody has to move their RV
Right,
because it's too long.
right.
So at that point,
They
if
receive
I'm
a
not
warning?
mistaken, Alexis had said that
30.
they normally give 30 days before
Right.
they fine.
Right.
So
But
in
we
those
can-
30 days, either you come and get a variance
Mhm.
or you have 30 days to move your RV.
Right, we can say that this ordinance doesn't take effect for 30 days so that they have time to move their RV.
Oh, nobody's gonna move it. We have to tell them. Nobody's gonna
Yeah.
move
They
their
have to
RV.
get caught and then.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna move their
Notice.
So
RV.
then-
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about
For
that.
example, they get a notice on their door.
Right.
And then we give them 60 days to
Right,
comply.
right.
Put
That's
in
what
for a
you-
variance, move the vehicle. and-
Correct.
So I think not effective of the ordinance passing, but of them receiving notice
Understood.
directly.
So is 30 days okay with this?
60
council?
days, I
60
think,
days?
the council president
Is
said.
that, does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Normal code enforcement compliance, as you all know, is 30 days. So I think 60 days is relatively generous.
More than.
Because it allows them to apply for variance, to come in, to be
Right.
heard. So that's a longer process. Okay. Okay. Anything else that we need to,
Were we going to discuss any RVs in the front yard at all
right,
of any size?
correct.
Remember, it's only one RV. But. So we,
How do we feel about?
we still have to discuss the backyard and the front yard. We said that the backyard, we prefer
No
nothing back
RVs,
there.
no RVs in. the
Now, what are we
backyard.
gonna do in the front yard for those people who have legally bought a small Airstream? And because they were allowed to, and they have it parked in front of their house, and now we're telling them nothing in front of the house. We gotta discuss that. I don't know.
And can they put that on the side of the house if it's so small?
If they don't have, no.
Oh, they
In-
don't
in
have
fact,
room on the side of the house.
I'm not sure if it's ours or some others, when they give the option to park in front, other ordinances, it's because they don't have. You have to park
You
it on
have to
the
get a
side.
variance.
If
You
you
have
have
to
to
get a
have,
variance.
if you have the space on the side, you have to park it on the side first. If you don't, it allows in a townhouse and a residence, I believe the front of the house, if you don't have space on the side. But before we get to the variance, are we gonna completely ban then in the front of the house parking, or are we gonna keep it at 24 foot?
We could, do we care if it's a boat 24 foot or if it's a little RV 24 foot? Do we care? If it's on the front of the house?
No, we don't.
As
care.
long as it's on
just
the
a-
side, front.
is
of
it
the
an
house, the
eyesore?
Driveway,
Is
It's
it
an
an
eyesore.
eyesore? It's already in the books. It was allowed.
yeah.
I don't think too many people are against a legitimately
No,
not
and that
rented
way, at least we could
24-foot
watch it in the
RV.
front. If somebody moves
Yeah.
in, we could watch it in the front.
Yeah,
They're
So if
happy.
it's a smaller one, which are the ones that they probably rent out more, they're not gonna rent out, 40-foot. If it's a smaller one, if they put it in the front, it would be better for us because we could see it. We don't have to knock on the door and say,
as
go
long
to
as
the
it's
back.
parked like it's supposed to be
Correct.
parked, pointing to the right of way and
Do we,
registered.
do we know the size of a fifth wheel trailer? How much are those motorhomes, the type C? Do we know the size of them typically?
I'm sorry,
Do we know the length of those vehicles
of
typically?
of a recreational vehicle?
Of the wheel trailer that you have, the examples that you provided here on the recreational vehicle examples? Type C motorhome, fifth wheel trailer,
I
that
don't know
travel
what an
trailer is
average,
larger.
I don't know what an average size would be.
We don't know the sizes of these.
I don't.
Diego, do you want to bring Diego up, Madam President?
Yes,
Yeah,
If
don't
you
get 'em
can.
started.
Hmm?
Don't get
Come
them
up,
started
please.
for the love of.
Name
God.
Problem is
address for the
getting them to
record.
stop, not getting
Oh,
them to
okay.
start.
go
All
ahead.
right, Diego Perez, Planning Zoning Board Chair, 501 Palm Avenue. The typical length of an RV. Okay, on your presentation there's a little typo. You have the very last one says trailer,
Mhm.
that's actually a fifth wheel. The one just to the left that says fifth wheel is an actual trailer.
Trailer, okay.
Right.
The longest fifth wheel, it's usually 45 foot from pin to bumper.
Mhm,
Okay,
Okay, that is, and typically they're triaxles,
okay.
they're toy haulers.
So can you pull it up, please? Thank you. Just so people understand what he's explaining. I think it's the recreation, I'm sorry, Mr. Diego.
Yeah.
It's the recreational vehicle examples is what he's
Yeah,
referring to.
it's further back, further back. There you
I
go.
believe it's page 4.
Okay, right. See the last two on the right, they're typo.
Right.
The very, very last one is a fifth wheel.
Right,
Those-
right.
Those like Mrs. Zogby's, they can be monsters.
The type A motorhome is what you're saying?
No.
No, the
The other-
The travel
trailers.
trailer,
Travel trailer. See, the
Right.
last one says travel trailer,
right?
that's actually a fifth wheel.
It's just
Right.
bigger.
The one just before
Uh-huh.
says fifth wheel, that's an actual travel
Travel
trailer.
trailer.
So
Okay,
they're reversed.
got it.
And like Mrs. Ogby said, a fifth wheel can be a monster. They can be up to 45 foot. That is the longest because you have to add the length of the tow vehicle, the
Got
truck.
it.
And there is a limitation of 53 feet.
Okay,
Okay, unlike a tractor trailer, a trailer itself can be 53 foot
uh-huh.
plus the tractor, but that's commercial vehicles.
Got it.
As far as the length of a travel trailer,
Mhm.
they can go anywhere from 10 feet, a little teardrop,
Right.
Mhm.
okay, all the way up to 45 feet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now, a 45-foot travel trailer, again, it's a monster,
Mhm.
but it is compatible with a fifth wheel.
Mhm.
So anywhere in between, everything else falls.
Okay,
Consider the fact that the body, the box, the living quarters
Mhm.
of an RV, okay, is what you see there. If you look at the one that is incorrectly says fifth wheel, you
Mhm.
notice that it has a hitch,
right.
okay? From the front of the box, if we are, the living quarters, from the front of the body
Mhm.
Mhm.
to the hitch, it's typically 5 feet,
Mhm.
the A-frame.
Mhm.
Then you have the rear with the bumper
Mhm.
with the spare tire. That's usually another 2 feet.
Got it.
So 5 feet in the front, 2 feet in the back, to 7 feet.
Mhm.
You're considering a 24-foot totality. That's what was presented to us, the totality of the vehicle. You're taking 7 feet away from 24 foot.
Right.
What does that leave you with?
Mhm.
17 foot.
Mhm.
A 17-foot
Oh, no.
travel trailer would translate to approximately a 14-foot or a 13-foot camper, livable space.
Okay.
Families that are full-figure individuals like myself cannot comfortably enjoy their vacations on such a small unit.
Mhm.
Okay, this is as far as lengths and dimensions are concerned.
Mhm.
A motorhome, like the very first one over there that
First
looks
one,
like a
yeah.
bus, yeah, they can be $1 million, $1.5 million.
How long?
motorhomes.
Can they be?
Huh?
How
How long
long?
can they?
45.
Typically 45 feet.
That's the average, the typical.
That's for something that
That
big,
big.
you know, $1.5 million. I mean, you're talking a mansion on wheels.
Mhm.
Okay, and Vivian, to answer your question, your comment, a typical RV trailer runs anywhere between 20,000 on up.
Right,
Okay, so it is a sizable investment.
correct.
Now, if I may just veer off just a second,
Yes.
the Alex
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, as far as power
Mhm.
and sewer connections.
Oh.
You, Monica, very eloquently said that those units are kept plugged in to keep the air moving, to keep the air circulating inside the unit. You know, we live in a very humid climate. If you keep that box closed,
Mhm.
it promotes mildew,
Right.
it promotes humidity, it promotes a stale feeling. So the air conditioning is kept running, not necessarily at 60 degrees, but cool enough to circulate the air to keep it livable.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you want to have a sewer connection? That's a tall tale sign that is being rented.
Correct.
Mhm.
But as far as electricity being cooked up, that's perfectly normal. I totally disagree with the fact that you're going to call and condemn the house and cut the power off to the house because you have the RV connected. Don't go there.
Through the chair, I don't think that's what Alexis was saying. I
That's what
think-
he said.
No, but I think what he was talking about is that they do connections directly to,
Life safety,
yeah, life safety.
electrical.
So it's not that you're connecting an extension cord from the house to the RV. He specifically clarified that at the end when Monica made that comment. So
Okay.
But
we're
a
not,
lot
we're
of
not
homes-
disconnecting from the RV.
No, yeah,
We're
but a
not
lot of
telling
homes
them.
don't have it connected to a generator. They have it connected with an.
No.
There
I know,
is-
but
An
they
extension cord
connect
to the
them.
house.
There's a lot of people that connect them directly to the poles.
Mhm.
No. Boy,
I don't know
that's
about
boy, that's
What-
that's
something-
dangerous.
What
I
what
don't
do
know
they
about that.
connect them to?
That's living dangerously.
Yeah.
Correct?
No.
That's what he
You
was
can't-
saying.
You can have a qualified electrician, okay, wire an RV outlet to the side of the house.
And they usually.
And it is nothing more than just like
An
that
extension,
plug that you have right
correct,
there.
a
It's an
plug,
Yes,
Correct?
okay. Another thing that was brought up about as far as lot sizes. Okay. The setback, the typical setback on the east side, I'm not talking about the substandard lots, but on the east side of Hialeah, the typical setback is the 30 feet from the building structure to the sidewalk,
Mhm.
30 feet,
Mhm.
unless you have built a front porch,
Mhm.
which the setback would then become 20 feet
Mhm.
from the building to the sidewalk.
Mhm.
Okay. Typical, and I'm saying typical now, I'm not saying your substandard lots, your duplexes and townhomes and stuff. The typical East Hialeah, the older section, typical size slot is 75 feet wide
Mhm.
by 120 feet long.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a nice sizable lot. Answering your comment, if it fits, in my particular case, My RV is 24 foot long. It is registered as a 24 foot, 23 feet. The box, the living quarters. But because of the hitch, because of the A-frame, brings it up to 28 feet. That makes it 4 feet illegal
In the front of the house.
in the front of the house. But it's still
It's still
within,
registered as a 24. So as an inspector, you don't know because you're just guiding yourself by the registration. But he's being honest and he's saying from hitch to the back.
Correct.
it's
it
28 feet,
exceeds-
it's 28 feet.
So then us passing something that says 24 is gonna be inappropriate. We would have to then go
It's
by.
already there.
Now,
24 is already there. We're not passing anything.
now where is,
But keeping it,
where it is
right?
placed right now, it is well within the property. It does not encroach onto the sidewalk.
Right.
There is a 3 foot
Side.
Setback.
side path
Mhm, on the
on,
side.
onto the neighbor,
Mhm.
okay? So it's,
Well, I think that we clarified that through the chair, I'm sorry. I think we clarified that when we said in the front, either a boat or a trailer, if the trailer fits in the front. So it's one or the other,
Right.
because he can't park in his house on the side. It doesn't fit because it's too wide. And the other side, he has a garage and he has, his motorcycles in the garage. So he can't pass it through that side either. So it would have to be, he would have to have it on the front, but it doesn't get to the sidewalk. So I think, again, if we're going to go back to what we're concerned about, if it's in the front, we're gonna see if somebody's living there,
right.
right? So
And
it's,
as far as the registry is concerned, are we talking about the Florida, the state license plate?
Mhm.
yes.
Okay, obviously, to drive it on the road, it has to be legal, it has to be registered. As far as the city registration, fine, no problem. With a nominal, a nominal fee, okay, that's fine, we can do that.
I
Okay,
think it was spoken free.
for free.
It's a
yeah.
nominal fee.
That's a nominal fee.
Right, now. Strictly kept for recreational purposes. Not for rental, not for
Obviously.
business.
It's already
Okay.
there.
And I agree with you. Even though your description is a little generous, if it fits like OJ Simpson. But in this case, as long as it fits, right? But yeah, I think you mentioned in 33 feet,
Correct.
that's
As,
In the front or the side?
in the front
33
side, on the
in-
front side.
Oh, are we discussing that we may allow 33 feet even in the front of the
No, it
house?
doesn't fit
No,
in the front.
it doesn't
33
fit.
doesn't
It would fit in my house. But I don't want to, I
Okay,
don't want my
it-
neighbor to do that.
In my particular case,
Mhm.
I have a 30-foot setback from my
Yeah.
building.
I have a 35, it would fit in my driveway, yeah,
Okay,
but we don't want that.
So-
We don't want that, but what we're saying is if it doesn't fit on the side, you could come and ask for a variance.
right.
With a variance.
With a
In other words, keep it
variance.
at 24?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the front, we said 24, whether it's an
But then
RV or a.
but then we're
boat.
gonna approve it. If
Huh?
we're allowing a variance, then there's gonna be, we're gonna start allowing that.
If it doesn't fit on the side of the house, then you have to come to a variance, but a variance is a long process and it costs you money. So
Man.
if you're doing it, it's
The-
because you really want the trailer in your house, the RV in your house.
If you couldn't fit it on the side, you were never supposed to have something longer than 24 feet. It's been in the books for years and
Right.
years. So what are we doing? Are we actually laxing it now?
The book said 33.
No, on the side or the rear, not in the front. Not for RVs in the front of the house. Let me look at it again.
Now, as long as, while you're all doing that, as long as you keep in mind the actual wasted space, if you will,
Rear and side.
for the tongue of the trailer, the A-frame, and the wasted space behind the trailer. Okay,
We don't care about that.
as long as the unit is registered for within 24 foot,
That's right. Yours would comply.
then,
Yeah,
you know,
Absolutely. we're not.
As a member of the planning and zoning board, we discussed this
Yes, you
ordinance
did, yeah.
3 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was
and-
on there. I'm sorry. It was on there because it is
Yeah,
in D2. Look, it's
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 D2,
being-
yes.
it's amended, but it was
It's
on there.
D1, actually. It says 33 feet
It's
On the
over
side or
here, it says
on the side?
D2.
Not in
on the
front.
side, on
It
the side or
says
in the back, or in the
Attached
backyard.
camper not exceeding 9
The
and
existing
1/2
one.
will
Right,
be
so
allowed
you're
to be
saying if
parked in
somebody
the
knows,
paved front driveway.
correct, but you're saying if somebody bought it before, you could buy 33 and put it in the back of your house, and you could have it in your house now, so now you're telling him he can't have it there anymore.
Okay, okay.
So that's the variance. That's what we're saying. We're not saying somebody goes out and buys one right now. We're changing the rules. Somebody bought something that's 33.
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
have it in
yeah.
the back of their house right now.
Yeah,
You're gonna tell them, get out?
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not, and I understand it may not fit on the side.
I'm wondering, well, okay, guys.
And that's exactly what I'm in agreement with you. Okay. My particular case, I purchased the unit based on the existing ordinance, which is
Correct,
up to
correct.
33 feet. I knew that I only had a maximum of 30 feet from my building to the sidewalk. So I curtailed my purchase
Based on the rule.
based on my ability, my space, and based on the ordinance. So I reduced the length of my unit to purposely fit within my property and still be compliant. Now, all of a sudden, like Ms. Casale Munoz said, all of a sudden, you have this much, but now you're cutting into this much. So my purchase has already been finalized, and now I'm in a no-win situation.
Yeah.
And I'm just speaking for myself. Okay,
Through the chair, the only thing we
Yes.
want to change is then, was my understanding is, okay, so if we keep the 24-foot RV in front of the house, or could be more if we decide up to 33, what exists now, up to 33 feet in the side or rear. The only thing we're eliminating now is the rear. So we have the concern about what happens to those people who did legally buy one and parked it in the rear, and now they can't park it in the front. First of all, they don't have the space to park it in the front. If they've only got 25 foot like you've got there, they'll never be able to park there.
Correct.
32. That's got to go. But
But it could be in the front towards the back. And it could fit.
towards what back? How do we
If
get
you-
it towards the
If
back?
you could put your RV from
The sidewalk
the sidewalk
To what back?
to the back of your.
towards
house,
the side of your house to the back.
to the
Oh,
front
no,
of your
if you
structure.
have that option in the side of your house, it should be kept completely on the
Yes,
side of
but
your
if
house.
if your house is 30 feet and the RV is 33, it's gonna be in the rear. That's what you were saying earlier. If your
Or
house,
side.
if
no?
you're on the side of the house and your house only goes 30 feet from the beginning of the house to the end of the house,
That I don't have a problem. If he surpasses
That's-
3 feet, but right.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Because we kept saying, well, we don't allow RVs in the back, but if it starts at the front, if
Not of the
it's
sidewalk, not of the property line, of the building line.
of the building line.
Yes,
If it
yes,
starts
yes.
from the
Yeah.
building line and it goes past towards the
Yes.
backyard.
Yeah,
But it's still in the house on the side.
yeah, yeah. I like that. I'm
Okay.
okay with that.
as long as,
But then you have.
I'm sorry,
gates.
Huh?
Then their gate, where are they gonna put a gate to protect their. Into their.
Oh,
into
no,
their
they have to be able to drive it out the front of their house.
that's the
That's the
thing.
problem.
See, as long as it's within the property and it does not encroach onto the right of way, onto the sidewalk. And
your
I
gate.
I don't.
be
get what you're-
gated,
That's the problem.
it
'cause
can fit
your
in the front
gate
side.
Attaches to the front of the structure of your home, so you started. at
No,
that-
you could put your gate on the sidewalk. I mean, on the.
No, but typically.
Right.
That's where people
Right.
have their gates. So then the RV starts at the beginning of the structure of your house and it's gonna then exceed into the rear setback of your home. your backyard.
Correct.
If we make it that the back of the RV is aligned with the back structure of the home and it goes out forward to your house, then they're gonna have to adjust their gates.
Correct. That's what that's what I've been saying the whole time. But as
It's gonna make it
we,
harder.
what we don't want What we don't want is what what the mayor had behind his house, that they parked the RV at the neighbor's yard. So when the RV is higher, you
Right.
look in and you're seeing everything that the mayor is doing in his backyard. That's what we don't want. If it's already allowed on the side of the house and it passes the back wall of your house, because maybe that was only a garage, right? And then your house keeps going back. If it goes to the back,
I'm okay with it.
as long as it starts in the front that you could see the RV isn't rented, why are we so picky about my house starts here, your RV could only be from here to here,
No, I'm not.
even though I have 20 feet back.
I'm
It
okay.
could pass 3, 5, 10.
I'm okay with that.
That's what I'm saying. We don't need to make their life miserable in details.
Mhm,
If something doesn't work and we see a pattern, he's gonna come back and say, you know what? Vivian, they were absolutely right.
No, we can move past.
They
that.
rented out that
But
3 feet from the
do you
back,
agree with the 33 feet limit
correct?
and everything else becomes a variance and
Correct.
we better not make that a
A rule-
habit.
Yeah,
Do you agree with the 33 feet in length as it exists now?
I think that's what's there now. I know people that have longer RVs and they would have to. Are we going to allow for them to do a variance? if They've already owned it.
Yes, we said that.
If
We'll
we
allow
already
for a variance.
owned it.
I
Not
guess
if
if
you
they
buy
come
it.
in with proof
Not
that
now.
they've had it registered for years, we can, on a case
There's a
to case
group, we
basis.
know, we all know the same group that goes and they have huge RVs
Yeah.
and they park them in their house.
Yeah,
So if
yeah,
they buy the RV after this after this ordinance passes, they don't qualify for the variance. However, if they had the RV prior to this ordinance passing, they could then come and it could be subject to a variance.
Yes, I like that.
I like that.
And we could amend if necessary as we go forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we allow in the front at all?
Yes,
What are we doing?
said either
24
boat-
foot?
Either, right, 24.
Either boat or
or
same as it is now,
same
24
as it
foot,
is Now, for an RV as well.
as long as it doesn't
Yeah, yeah.
encroach on the right.
So-
Yeah, I like that. I
I'm
don't
not
have-
part of the RV community campers. I see that a lot of them, they're in the front have that extended cabin open. Is there a reason why they have it open? Is it, I mean, is it to balance? Is it
Very
because of the
good, very
wind?
good question.
What, why is that open?
Very good question. The slide out
Right,
is there to provide additional living space
right.
within the unit. A tall tale sign of
Occupancy.
occupancy
Mhm.
is an extended, a deployed slide out, because it gives you that much more room.
Correct. So
Okay,
you don't need to have that out to have balance on the vehicle when it's parked for
No.
maintenance
No,
purpose.
not, well,
It should.
Once in a
you
while,
know,
yeah.
if you,
Open it to make sure it doesn't get stuck.
You
but-
open it,
but-
yeah.
We see them parked in the front with the expanded cabin, and I don't know if it's because they need to have it plugged in like for air conditioning or for that. I don't know the purpose of it,
no, the
So-
purpose of a slide out being deployed is for additional
living.
living
Okay,
space inside.
so,
To piggyback on your comment, you see the open slide out and a deployed awning.
right,
That is tall tale sign of occupancy.
okay. So
Okay.
should we pass part of this ordinance, something that limits the width so that those extended cabins are not
Could-
open?
The width is
Um,
a typical width. Okay, it cannot exceed 8 feet.
Right, it's a road, it's
It's
what
a
the
road-
lane of
Right.
a
Because of
road.
a-
So
Through-
should
through
we
the
pass
chair.
something that doesn't allow, that exceeds that? Because
deployment?
then that, right, because then that means the cabin would be open.
I think that the inspector that's gonna go by or the code violation or that Alexis is running, I think they know sufficient that if they see it open,
It's,
then they could.
they need to
open
look
the
into.
door
They
and
cannot-
put it
Yes.
open.
You can't though. You can't. I think
They
you,
cannot.
I need to, in order for them to have that additional, they're gonna need maybe that written in the ordinance to say, okay, the cabin is
It says it
extended.
already. It says it already. If they have probable cause, they could ask if they could see it.
but I
Only
think-
location, nothing
I think,
else.
I mean, hearing from them, I don't know if that would help to add that into.
Can I,
the
can I
ordinance.
say through the chair, can I
Yes, sir.
suggest something? The 3 foot setback on the side could remedy that, because if they deploy the slide out to the side, now they're violating the 3-foot setback
Not necessarily because they could deploy it to their
onto the other
driveway,
side.
to their driveway.
But-
If we're allowing it in the front,
Right.
it could be on their side of the property.
I think
line.
it's going to be very difficult to enforce a deploy, although it is a telltale sign of an
Right.
occupied. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah, it's a good question. The enforcement is the challenge. I don't know.
Right, and we don't want to get into Fourth Amendment issues. That's our main issue. You know, you don't want to go in and knock on the
Never,
door.
never, never, never.
I think the way it's written now protects us in the best way possible, that we can go on and look at the location of the recreational vehicle. I don't think we want to be in the business of going into these, yeah, of course. I don't think we want to put ourselves in that position. I think the way it's written is sufficient, so we can see the location of the vehicle. But I think that's as good as we get.
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes, sir.
The only, and from what I'm understanding, the most effective and I guess less liable way to do this is we limit it to what we're doing. We limit the size. We enforce what we've got, but let's not pretend or be under the delusion that we're ever going to be able to create an ordinance that will allow us to actually do knock on a door and have them open and say, are you guys just hanging out in here temporarily? Or are you living here? We have to do it by a more
Correct.
broad thing. We limit the amount of them, we make them register it, we try to legalize everything the way it should be. And then the occupancy is a challenge, which is right, sir? Mhm.
The occupancy is a challenge. It's that would be a code enforcement case, depending on the facts of the case, but offhand, the city would need to prove that there is an occupancy there by some kind of visual observation, film, video, personal knowledge. You couldn't just allege it in a conclusionary manner. You'd have to have some facts supporting it.
Okay. So we're good?
I've written all your suggestions. I'll go back and work on new ordinance. What I do ask is that if we can push the first reading to the second meeting in September, so that I can go back with my office and discuss with the city attorney necessary changes that need to be made, have enough time to do that.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. that's okay.
Absolutely, you need it.
Thank you.
Yeah, if that's the amount of time you need for your research, absolutely, go ahead and
Thank you.
we'll have it read then on what's then the second meeting, September 26th. then.
Can I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Yes,
Alexis, so far, the working modified ordinance we've created, do you find those to be reasonably enforceable, sir? We're not creating anything that's a hardship on, are these reasonably enforceable?
It works.
The tweaking we're doing, okay.
It works because the main issue is in the rear, the RVs in the back where we have no
Okay.
visuals. And we can't control that at this point right now.
Perfect.
So if you
Everything
eliminate the
else.
rear, which is the
And
intent,
it's, that's all we're eliminating. Everything
helps
else is on the books.
the code
already.
enforcement officer to see what's going on. That's
Okay.
all.
Very good. So this is work, it's what's on the books, except now we're eliminating the
rear.
backyard, which is even
Correct.
better.
okay.
That was the
So
intent.
you can work with this, right?
That's good for us.
We could create whatever ordinance that, but if we can't boots on the ground really enforce it, then it's a waste of time. Thank you,
Agreed.
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam
Perfect.
President.
All right, yes, sir.
Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you, Diego.
I'm always available. So if you have any questions, any suggestions, look me up. You all have my number. You know where to find me. So look me up.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
That's it on your part. Perfect. All right, thank you everyone for being here. The workshop concludes now at 11:32. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.